What's going on, everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I bought my first property at age 21, as well as some lessons I learned from buying that first deal, because everyone learned something on their very first real estate deal, and mine was no different. So that being said, please smash that like button and let's jump into it. Okay, so a little bit of background first. When I was in college, I was always thinking about purchasing real estate, getting into real estate, everything like that. So my credit, I think, was decent at the time, and I had a little bit of money saved up. But as soon as I got my very first job out of college, I started squirreling money away. I've never even used that word before, but I started squirreling cash away from every single paycheck. So I made it a goal that at the end of 6 months, I was going to purchase a property. It was probably going to be a pretty inexpensive property, just given that I live in a very expensive area and I did not inherit like $10 million or anything like that. So over the course of 6 months, I saved and saved and saved. Because when you're looking to buy a property, you need money for the down payment, you need money for the closing costs, which can be another 2 or 3%, and then you need money for unexpected expenses that come up. Any property, even like a brand new renovated property, you should always have an emergency fund of maybe 3 to 6 months for different repairs and things like that. So I saved and saved and saved, and I also improved my credit score. My credit was already pretty decent, but I got my credit to 800 or pretty much excellent credit. And over the course of those 6 months of saving and improving my credit, I talked to a local lender. And you almost always want to go with a local lender when you're buying real estate. And the reason for that is, number one, they're going to be pretty responsive if they're a good local lender. Sometimes you can get better interest rates with a lender, in California or like on the other side of the country. However, you might have to go through like a 1-800 number and then talk to like 20 different people to actually find out like the status of your loan. So I would always recommend, talking with a local lender first. And you can even talk with like 2 or 3 local lenders, and they'll ask you, about your financial status, credit score, things like that. And they'll tell you, what they can offer you. So it's probably good to talk to a few of them, see who has the best rate, see who you're more comfortable with, and then go from there. So once my credit score was good, once I had some cash reserves, once I'd been working at my job for 6 months and also had my pre-approval letter, I started looking at different properties. Now here's where the real estate lessons come in. So I think I looked at 2 different properties before I made an offer and went under contract, and I purchased the second property I saw. And real estate tip number 1 is that before you purchase any property, unless it's a complete steal of a deal, before you purchase any type of property, you should have at least looked at like 10, 20, 30 different properties, or maybe done a ton of research online. The mistake I made was, like I said, I just bought the second place I looked at. I was just so happy that I could actually afford a property, that someone was actually willing to give me a loan to purchase a property, that I bought the second place I looked at. Which leads me to real estate tip number 2. So I purchased a studio condo. And it was, like I said, it was one of the cheapest places in the entire city. And it was actually in a pretty good location, like looking back on it. I mean, it was on the first floor and it overlooked a parking lot. So in terms of the building, it wasn't in a good location, but just geographically speaking, it was pretty convenient to different things. However, looking back on it, I should have bought the largest place possible. And by large, I mean in terms of bedrooms. So actually the first place I looked at was like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condo, which looking back on it, it appreciated like $100,000. So I kind of missed out on like an $100,000 profit because I didn't buy the first place, I bought the second place. And the type of loan that I use and the type of loan that I would recommend for a first-time home buyer is use an FHA loan. It's only 3.5% down. So like I mentioned, I didn't have to save up like $50,000 or anything like that to purchase the property. I only had to put 3.5% down, which any first-time home buyer can do. However, with a 3.5% down loan, you can actually purchase up to a 4-unit building. So I could have bought, basically a small apartment building, lived in one of the units, rented out the other 3, and probably would have made some money every single month. Or at the very least, I could have bought a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, or maybe even a 3-bedroom property, which, looking back, I should have done. The thing about studio condos is that you can buy one like very inexpensively and oftentimes very good locations. However, historically, they're just not going to appreciate as much as like a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, or much less like a 4-unit building. So I'd recommend trying to go as big as possible when you're first buying a property using an FHA loan. Definitely a 4-unit if you can. The next lesson I learned is that you should always negotiate. If there's like 3 or 4 offers on the table, yeah, you're probably going to have to go above asking price. However, with this property, I think it had been on the market for like a month, maybe 2 months, and I didn't even negotiate off the price. I was just, like I said, I was so happy that I could afford a place that I just made an offer at full price, and not surprisingly, I got it under contract. If I were to negotiate on that same condo today, I would come in, at least $10,000 under asking price, just because there's a much smaller market for studio condos. There's a much smaller percentage of people that are looking to buy those. So sometimes, the seller might be more flexible than if they were selling a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom. So you should always try to negotiate on just about any type of real estate deal. And the next lesson that I learned, it was something that I had actually kept in mind. So it was something that I did well. But when you're purchasing a property, always think about what you could rent it out for. So when I added up my mortgage, condo fees, taxes, everything like that, I was actually making money every single month if I had rented it out. And that's eventually what I did. I rented the property out and made like $100-200 every single month. So keep that in mind, because you never know, there could be job changes, you could move, you could lose your job, you could move out of the country, you just never know what's going to happen. So you should always try to factor that in, what you could rent it out for. And obviously you don't want to purchase it if you're going to be losing a significant amount every single month. You want to try to make sure that matches up. So I held on to this property for about 5 years and then sold it, made a very small profit, much less than if I had actually purchased a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom or 4-unit. But anyways, when I sold the property, there was supposed to be a streetcar going in like 1 block away. I didn't make any claims about the streetcar or anything like that, but actually the buyer's agent pretty much convinced me that the streetcar was going in. And not only did she convince me, but she also probably told her buyer that 100% sure the streetcar is going in. There's been notices and county approvals and different things like that. So I think their buyer was very excited about the potential of a streetcar going in. However, what happened, and what happens a lot of times with streetcars or big projects, is that they get delayed or canceled completely. And in this case, the streetcar project actually got canceled. I don't know if it was like 6 months after, a year after, 2 years after, but it never went through. So this agent had totally convinced their buyer that a streetcar was going in, and I'm assuming that's probably one of the reasons why the buyer purchased it. So a lesson that you can take from that is that unless you're just gambling and just hoping it's going to go in, nothing's a done deal. Even if there's different approvals, with big projects, it has to go through so many different layers of bureaucracy and different layers of approvals, and then it can still get shut down at the last minute. So don't just count on it, make sure they're actually breaking ground and everything like that. Okay, so thanks for watching this video. And if you have any questions about buying your first property, definitely drop them in the comment section below. And please like, please share, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.